Welcome everyone to Noble Capital Markets Basic Industries Virtual Equity Conference, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Mark Reichman, Noble Senior Research Analyst covering the basic materials and industrial sectors. I am pleased to introduce Mr. Gary Evans, Chairman of the Board and Chief Executive Officer of United States Antimony Corporation. United States Antimony sells processed antimony, zeolite, and precious metals products in the United States and Canada. The company's shares are listed on the NYSE American under the ticker UAMY. Gary?
Thank you, Mark, and thank all of you for joining in on our presentation today. This is going to be available on our website, and I will go through the changes that we've made. It's important for everybody to know that this is really a turnaround story. Began in August of last year when new management and new board were implemented into the company. And then we'll talk about the changes we've made over this past year. So our first slide is about our forward-looking statements. I may indicate something that's forward-looking. So let's talk about this business. It's an old business, been around since 1968. We've been traded on the New York Stock Exchange since 2012. And the changes we've made within management and the board are substantial. The company historically has been a sleepy company. The founder passed away about 3 years ago, and gave us an opportunity to kind of reinvent what U.S. Antimony is all about. Our markets are predominantly in North America, and it's important that everybody understands we are the only antimony smelter in North America that's active and running. And historically, there's been smelting opportunities in antimony in many other countries. China has gone around the world and bought up most of the antimony mines. And not only do they control around 55% of world antimony, they also control the midstream, which is the smelting as well as the flotation facilities. And on September 15th, which is 2 days from now, China will stop. They've cut off all global supply of antimony in the name of its own national interest. So it's created quite a quagmire with countries around the world, and especially the United States, because we don't have any active antimony mines any longer after the EPA as well as low prices shut those down about 20 years ago. So we are now, with our new team, we're getting records of production in our business, and we'll talk a bit more about that today. The next slide kind of shows you our corporate office and plant there in Thompson Falls, Montana. It is up in the mountains in a really pretty place, and is an active smelter where we bring antimony ore into this operation for handling to make munitions grade material, as well as material for many other businesses, one of which is fire retardant. Next slide kind of breaks out. Now we have two lines of business. We have a zeolite business and we have an antimony business. So many people don't even know what zeolite is. That's not unusual. It is. We have a mine up in Preston, Idaho, that I'll talk about here in a minute. But what is it used for? Water filtration, environmental remediation, which includes nuclear. All three nuclear disasters where zeolite was used. It's for coal and water contamination. Also, many astroturf installations use zeolite, as well as animal feed supplement, predominantly for cattle. Over 25% of our business goes to animal feed. Odor reduction, sewage treatment, and gas pipeline water absorption. So those are the uses of zeolite. It's a very clean, natural material. On antimony, the most important, I believe, is munitions, being lead hardening for bullets, primer production. It's used in laser-guided missiles, as well as sides of tanks, flame retardants, semiconductors, solar panels, and batteries. So two hard rock minerals that have lots of uses. Let's go to the next slide. It shows you just what our surface mine looks like in Preston. This is an actual picture of when we blast the rock and pick it up to put it in trucks to take it to our facility what it looks like. So let's talk about Bear River, which is the zeolite operation. As I mentioned, with the changes we've made, one of the things that was a big sore for our company is that we had very low runtime, in other words, efficiency. We had 94% in the second quarter of 2024. Prior quarters were as low as 60, 70%. Tons sold, we were up 59% from the first quarter of this year. Sales volumes were up 64%. And we caught up on the backlog. We've always had 30, 45, 60 days of backlog. That no longer exists. So we've been building inventory. And we've now just recently launched a new product called Cattle Prime, which is used to do direct sales for feedlots. Next slide shows a picture of the state of Idaho along with what our mine looks like on the side of the mountain. We have 25 employees up there. Changes we've made with respect to the management at this location is we have a new vice president of operations, an experienced plant manager we brought in. We've also brought in a superintendent, a new office manager. So we have 3 new key people there. We've been modernizing and streamlining this operation. Historically, it was really run haphazardly. We've made some significant capital improvements, spent almost $600,000 in the first 6 months of this year to make those improvements. Other thing we've done is we drilled 82 test holes early this year. As a publicly traded company, we're required by the SEC to report our reserves. Company's never done that in the past. And so we did that, and it was really informative in that we learned that we have a huge supply of zeolite here, possibly a 200-year supply. So we are positioned to increase production volumes here over the next 3 years. We'd like to double and triple volumes here, and that will require some capital, but we're planning to do that. So right now we're out looking for new orders. Next slide just gives you a deeper breakdown of the various uses of zeolite: odor control, animal nutrition, gas separation, sewage treatment. Next slide talks about the soil amendment and fertilizer, water filtration, and the nuclear cleanup. Let's talk about the nuclear. The next slide shows you the 3 nuclear disasters being 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima. Zeolite was used in all 3 of those cleanups for radioactive particles. We are actually in Washington talking to several government agencies that they should be stockpiling zeolite. We know there will be another nuclear disaster at some point in our future, and we should have this on hand ready for cleanup. Next slide shows you just what our kind of cattle feed advertising is kind of looking like. This is our first new in-house project, product line in a number of in a long period of time. Not only is it for cattle feed and feedlots, beef cattle, but it's also used for dairy cattle. So we've been going to all the cattle shows and trying to introduce our product. It's mixed in with the feed. And this, so what's so great about it for cattle? As you're gonna, I'm sure you've heard, cattle do have emissions, greenhouse gas problems, and this zeolite reduces that significantly in the first stomach of the cow. It also is a protein builder in the second stomach. So feedlots really like it right before slaughter. And this slide just explains in greater detail all the health benefits of zeolite for cattle. So our sales and revenue for zeolite are beginning to improve again based on our ability to have more efficiency in the operation. I think you see a continued improvement here as the year goes by. And our goal was to really significantly increase the sales of this particular material. Let's jump to antimony. That's the product of the day. These are the various products of antimony: antimony oxide, metal, trioxide, trichloride, trisulfides, and nanocrystals. So we have antimony is on the government's critical mineral list, which means that it is essential for the country's economic and national security. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we're the only operating permitted antimony smelter in North America. The facility's been in operation since 1972. We're also the only U.S. domestic producer of antimony products, and we can ship on short notice to domestic customers. And we're continuing to work very closely with the federal government and agencies to obtain grants or loans for expansion of a number of different areas of the company. We control very little of the U.S. supply, of the world supply, about maybe 4% at most. And then we'll see how that changes with the announcement from China. We did something about 2 weeks ago. It was very significant. I kind of talk about antimony being a three-legged stool. You got to have ore. You have to have the ability to increase the concentrate of that ore, and you have to have the ability to smelter. We obviously own the smelter. This Phillipsburg, Montana flotation facility that we have leased now will allow that subpar ore to be floated and brought up to a level that allows us to process it in our smelter to make munitions grade material. So this allows us now to collect material from all over the world and try to increase its value because it has low concentrates of antimony. So this was a very important piece of our puzzle, and I think will really be beneficial to us down the road. So let's look at what's happened with antimony. It's now well over $12 per pound, and you can see historically, it's been $5.50, and so we've had a significant increase because of the decisions of China. So why is it so tight? As I mentioned, China controls over 50%, and along with Russia, China is the largest producer of processed antimony, including antimony trioxide, and accounted for over 70% of production globally. Mentioned solar cells. As we all know, that is an industry that surged, and therefore ingot is consumed domestically. China's exports of unwrought antimony, including ingot, fell 45% year on year in the first half of 2024. So we believe they anticipated what they were planning to do. And despite their dominance of antimony ore output, China is a net importer of antimony concentrates. So outside of China, antimony processing capacity is extremely limited. So we are very much in a niche that we hope to capitalize on. Now let's talk about other minerals, not just antimony. This is a chart that shows you that really since year 2020, the metal prices have increased dramatically. And this has a lot to do with the critical minerals and with our changes in technology, computing. A lot of these critical minerals are a necessary ingredient. And that's one reason it's called metal product prices to increase so dramatically. So we made a decision about 90 days ago that we also would like to have some of our own supply rather than just completely be dependent upon others. So we began a leasing effort in Ontario, Canada. We leased 4,300 some odd acres. These critical minerals are cobalt, nickel, copper, and bismuth. We have a development plan that we're working on, and this is in a very much proven historical mining area. There's existing operations. In fact, one of the largest copper companies in the world is involved in this area. And so we're excited about this little nugget we picked up. At the same time, we went over to Alaska, and we picked up new mining claims there covering over 11,000 acres. This is high-grade copper with some gold and silver, and copper aligns with the U.S. Department of Critical Minerals list. Great location, has access to roads, railroads, and in an area that we can actually explore. So we have these claims. We're continuing to add to them, and we're obviously talking to various parties about how we're going to explore them. So let's talk about America's supply chains. The U.S. government issued a proclamation, Executive Order 14017, which basically said secure domestic supply chains for critical minerals by 2027 from our own sources, not China and Russia. So this kind of compounded the situation that we're dealing with today, because we have most of these critical minerals coming from other countries, and now under the Defense Production Act, which is the DPA, they are granting money to various companies, one of which is Perpetua. He's received about $25 million, and they have a gold mine in Idaho that has, I would say, 80% gold and about 20% antimony. So you're seeing more and more of these type of grants coming from the government in hopes of trying to invigorate the ability to get access to these critical minerals. So accomplishments for our 2023 last year and this year. So really half of last year and half of this year. You can see all the senior management changes, board of director changes. The zeolite mine up in Preston, Idaho has doubled production. We shut down all our Mexican operations, which were all tied to antimony. We did a deep dive and determined the company really had never made any money down there. We're trying to sell off some of those assets. Some we may keep, we have yet to decide. The critical mineral claims that I just mentioned in Canada and Alaska, we've gotten those in, and then we continue to maintain a very high cash balance. In fact, our cash balance has continued to improve this year because we are generating cash flow. Our goal is to return this company to profitability with the measures that we've incorporated. On page 26, which is a summary of our balance sheet, just showing you, actually this is income statement showing you 6 months ended June 30, 24, 6 months ended June 30, 23. You can see all the dramatic changes. You'll see even greater ones as the year goes by. So forward strategy, we're trying to take this company to the 21st century, continue improving our throughput and efficiency at the zeolite mine, broaden our international customer base. We're receiving calls from countries all over the world. We're receiving samples from mines that we're testing to see if we can use their material. And we're continuing to familiarize ourselves with various departments of the government in order to obtain possible funding. We've never really marketed the company until the last month. You can see when you look at the company share price and volume, it's changed dramatically. And it's because we've begun telling the story. We've been going to a lot of conferences, having institutional meetings, and we have a number of research analysts looking at picking up coverage. So the company today has no equity research coverage. So institutional ownership has been a dramatic goal of ours, and just telling our story to the community. You also see, if you go look, insider buying, we've had insider buying from board of director members, CFO, controller. So we're all putting our money where our mouth is. When I came on board, I bought a significant amount of stock. So our summary is we think that we are at the right place at the right time, and we're in a unique position. We want to capitalize on that. So we're doing everything in our power to position ourselves to be able to do that. And with that, Mark, I think we are ready to take some questions from the audience.
Well, thank you, Gary. What impact will China's antimony export restrictions have on the global market, and how is your company positioned to respond?
It's having a dramatic effect on the global market because they control not only antimony with respect to ore, but they also control the midstream processing. The processing of antimony is really necessary in order to get to a final metal or final product. And so the fact that we're getting the kind of calls we're getting from countries like Turkey and Australia, New Zealand, Kazakhstan, tells you that there's a desperate need. Now, obviously, there's brokers involved. We have to weed through all that to get to something that makes sense. But the whole world is in a situation that's been created here. And as you can imagine, with the amount of military goods that we've sent to Ukraine and that we've sent to Israel, it's kind of got us in a bit of a pickle. So It's a unique situation that I think we probably should have seen coming, but has definitely arrived.
If United States Antimony were to obtain a Department of Defense grant to financially assist the company, how would that be utilized?
We actually have a laundry list of things that we could use grants for in order to strengthen our company to be able to meet the government needs. And so we are working on a scope paper that we'll be submitting very shortly to the Department of Defense in a number of different areas. And it could be obviously the Thompson Falls facility to meet the needs that the government really has. We should triple to quadruple the output of that facility. We have a facility in Mexico that could use improvements if we decided to fire it back up. We have these exploration projects in Canada and Alaska. We have the ability we should be building inventory of antimony. So, maybe money's available to do that. So there's a whole list of things we're working on, and we're going to let the government decide, which areas they think are most crucial, and we'll go from there.
So now what steps is the company taking to ramp up production at its Thompson Falls facility?
It's a great question. We currently are only running at 50% of capacity. All of that's coming from Canada. And I feel pretty confident that based on the inquiries we're getting and the quality of some of the material that we're sampling, that we'll be able to ramp that up further. And we can do that with hardly any capital, very, very little capital. So that's our first order of business, is to take the capacity of Thompson Falls up significantly from a 50% level to hopefully 100%.
Does the company have any future plans for its facilities located in Mexico in order to meet rising demand?
We have all of Mexico in our financials as discontinued operations, but that was obviously prior to China making its announcement 3 weeks ago. So we do have a facility down there that we're contemplating maybe starting back up. We haven't, we have to have material to do that. See, Mexico historically was funded its material from our own mines, and that was the problem. The cost of mining in Mexico, especially when the cartel was involved in certain areas, was prohibitive. The mining, the antimony we mined was costing us more than what we were selling it for. So that's why, we shut that down. And we just believe that mining in Mexico is too difficult of a process for an American company. And so we're actually talking to a number of Mexican companies about taking over some of those. So the midstream, though, being the flotation, is a different animal. And we think that there is a real possibility that we might, pull that back out of discontinued operations. We haven't made that decision yet, but we're evaluating it.
So how does U.S. Antimony's strategic positioning really across or in a number of different critical minerals begin to meet future government and industry needs?
Well, I think the fact that we have some really top-notch mining experts on our board that have got seasoned experience and contacts in the industry, this enabled us to find these, what I call nuggets of mining opportunities. So we've made sure that these mining claims are not on any federal or BLM land. It's because of the time delay. They're all either on state or provincial lands, and in areas where there's lots of mining going on. And there's infrastructure in the area. There's the ability to get product out. And so it allows you to move on a much faster track than you would if you were out at Timbuktu in Alaska looking for something that's 500 miles away from the nearest road. So we as an oil and gas guy for 35 years, I highly believed in closeology before geology, and go where other people have already found, oil and gas. Here, go where other people have already found mining claims that have material. So I think that we're in a good position, and we're going to continue to try to expand that. So I'm pretty excited. If you think about what all we've accomplished in really 12 months, it's pretty phenomenal. And then China gave us this huge boost. So now we've got to figure out ways to help our country and help fill this void of antimony.
Gary, thank you for your presentation and U.S. Antimony's participation in Noble's Basic Industries Conference.
Thank you.
Now please welcome the Mayor of Boca Raton, Florida, Mr. Scott Singer.
We are excited to have so many thought leaders in emerging growth companies join us in our city, one with a history of innovation at its core.
And here we are on the campus of the Florida Atlantic Owls.
You can start a company with a great product and become a multimillionaire.
Well, first of all, I'm thinking of the business. What is it, right? Is it scalable? How will I make a profit?
The world does not beat a path to your door. There really is no such thing as a better mousetrap